The pawnshop bell gave a hollow chime as Emily pushed the glass door open with her shoulder, her arms trembling under the weight of the baby carrier. The winter wind trailed after her, biting at her skin before the door shut behind. Inside, the shop smelled of metal, dust, and stale coffee. Glass display cases glittered with trinkets, watches that had once kept time for better days, gold chains heavy with forgotten promises, guitars that might have filled rooms with laughter long ago. Emily's gaze darted nervously between them, her chest tightening. Her daughter stirred. Little Sophie whimpered in the carrier, her tiny fists curling, her lips searching for milk that Emily no longer had to give. "Shush, sweetheart," Emily whispered, her throat aching. "Mama's here. Just a little longer." The velvet pouch in her coat pocket burned against her palm. She pulled it out, her hands shaking, and spilled its contents into her fingers. A diamond ring, once radiant with love and vows, now looked like a stranger's jewel. Her wedding ring, her last lifeline. She had sworn never to part with it, not even when her bank account dwindled, not even when the landlord taped warnings to her door. But the empty can of formula on her counter at home had broken that vow. Pride didn't matter when Sophie's cries hollowed her out from the inside. Emily stepped toward the counter. The shopkeeper, a man with thinning gray hair and thick glasses, glanced up from his ledger. "Can I help you?" She set the ring on the glass between them. Her voice cracked. I need to sell this." The man picked it up with a small tool, examining the diamond. His expression remained impassive, but Emily caught the slight lift of his brows. "It's a fine piece," he murmured. "Where did you get it?" Her chest constricted. "It was a gift." He hummed, scribbled some notes, then disappeared into the back room. Emily swayed on her feet, bouncing Sophie gently, whispering lullabies even as tears threatened to spill. The baby whimpered again, and Emily's heart clenched. When the man returned, his face had changed, more careful, almost guarded. "This ring is valuable, too valuable for me to handle alone," he said slowly. "I'll need to call in a licensed buyer." Panic surged in Emily's chest. "Please, I don't have time, I just need enough for formula. Tonight." The man shook his head. "Rules are rules, but don't worry, he's on his way, won't take long." Emily wanted to scream, she wanted to grab the ring and run. But she had no other options, no other cards left to play. So she stayed, rocking Sophie, praying this mysterious buyer would come quickly. Minutes later, the bell over the door chimed again. A gust of cold air swept inside, along with polished shoes, the crisp rustle of a designer coat, and a presence so commanding that Emily froze. Her heart stuttered. "Where's the piece?" a deep voice asked. She turned slowly, her knees threatening to buckle. Alexander Knight, her ex-husband, the man who had once sworn forever, then shattered it. He stood tall and broad-shouldered, his charcoal gray suit molded to his frame, his tie immaculate, his hair perfectly styled as though the winter wind itself dared not touch him. The shop's dim light caught on the icy blue of his eyes, the same eyes that had once softened when they looked at her across candlelit dinners. Now they landed on the ring on the counter, then lifted to her face. The world tilted. "Emily," his voice cracked, a flicker of disbelief breaking through the cool CEO facade. Her breath caught in her throat. Sophie stirred again, and Emily pulled her closer, as though to shield her from him. The shopkeeper, oblivious to the storm between them, gave a nervous smile. "Mr. Knight, thank you for coming. This lady brought in the piece. I thought only someone of your expertise could verify it." Alexander didn't answer. His gaze remained locked on Emily. On her pale skin, the shadows under her eyes, the desperation in the way she clutched the baby. Finally, he spoke, his voice low. "Why are you selling this ring?" Emily swallowed hard. "Because I need to." His eyes flicked to Sophie, then back to her. His jaw tightened. "You're pawning the ring I gave you, to feed a child." Her lips trembled. "Not just any child, my child." His gaze snapped back to Sophie. For a moment, his mask slipped, and something raw flashed across his face. "Emily," his voice faltered. She's mine." Emily cut him off, her voice sharp with pain. "That's all that matters." He stepped closer, his presence overwhelming, his expression unreadable. "Yours, or ours." The words struck like lightning. Emily turned away, her eyes stinging. "I didn't come here for your questions. I just need money." Alexander's hand brushed the ring on the counter, curling around it. His gaze softened, then hardened again. "You're not selling this ring. Not here, not anywhere. No, you don't understand," she whispered, panic flooding her veins. He silenced her with emotion, pulling a sleek wallet from his coat. From it, he laid a thick stack of bills on the counter. This will cover your formula. And more. Emily stared at the money as though it might burn her fingers. Her pride screamed at her to refuse. But Sophie whimpered again, and her heart cracked. Her voice trembled. Why are you doing this? For a brief moment, the ruthless CEO vanished. She saw Alex, the man who had once held her through the night, kissed away her fears. Because, he said quietly, regret heavy in his tone, I should never have let you go. That night, Emily sat on her worn couch, Sophie finally asleep in her arms. The new canister of formula sat on the counter, proof of survival. But the money Alexander had forced on her weighed heavily in her pocket, as though it carried chains. She didn't want his help. Not after everything, not after the betrayal. A knock startled her, sharp, firm, unmistakable. Her heart lurched. When she opened the door, Alexander stood there. His presence filled the narrow hallway of her crumbling apartment building, the peeling wallpaper and flickering light bulbs casting him in stark contrast. Alex, she whispered, his jaw clenched as his gaze swept over her surroundings. So it's true. This is how you've been living. Her cheeks burned. What do you want? He didn't hesitate. The truth. Is she my daughter? Emily froze. She had carried the secret for 2 years, convinced she could protect Sophie from him. But Sophie's tiny hand tugged at her shirt, and Emily knew she couldn't lie anymore. Yes, she whispered. The silence cut deep. Alexander's chest rose and fell, his carefully built composure shattering. Why didn't you tell me? Tears stung her eyes. Because you left me, Alex. You walked away, and the next day I found out I was pregnant. I swore I'd never beg you to come back. His eyes burned with regret. Emily, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I thought I wasn't enough. I wanted to give you the world, to build something worthy of you. But I lost myself in it. And by the time I realized, you were gone. Her chest ached. Memories surged. His hand in hers, his laughter, his promises. But she remembered the nights alone, Sophie's fevers, the rent notices, the hunger. You don't get to rewrite history, she whispered. You weren't there. You didn't hold her when she cried. You didn't choose between food and rent. You weren't there. Alexander stepped closer, his voice breaking. But I'm here now, and I will never walk away again. Not from you, not from her. Emily shook her head, torn between hope and fear. Words are easy, she whispered. But Sophie doesn't need promises. She needs someone who shows up. His eyes softened as he reached toward the baby, who had woken and blinked up at him with familiar blue eyes, his eyes. Alexander's voice steadied, filled with determination. Then let me show up. Every day. For her. For you. Always. Emily's tears fell freely as Sophie reached out a tiny hand, grasping Alexander's finger. The sight shattered the last of her defenses. For the first time in years, hope flickered. Maybe this wasn't the end of their story. Maybe it was the beginning of something new. The bell above the pawnshop door gave a hollow chime as Emily pushed it open with her shoulder. The December wind trailed in behind her, sharp against her skin, before the door shut again. Inside, the air smelled faintly of dust and cold metal. The glass counters glimmered with gold chains, old guitars, watches that had once been tokens of better times. Emily's chest tightened as she stepped forward, rocking the baby carrier at her side. Sophie whimpered. Emily glanced down at her daughter, at the tiny face with lips searching for food. The last canister of formula at home was almost empty, and she didn't have a single dollar left to her name. Pride, vows, and memories didn't matter anymore. Only Sophie did. Her hand curled around the velvet pouch in her pocket. She pulled it out and, with trembling fingers, let the ring fall into her palm. The diamond sparkled faintly even under the pawnshop's dull lights. Her wedding ring. The last trace of a life she no longer lived. She stepped up to the counter. The shopkeeper, a man in his 60s with thinning hair and thick glasses, raised his brows. Can I help you? Emily swallowed. I'd like to sell this. He lifted the ring with a small tool, examining it under a magnifier. His expression didn't change, but his brows knit slightly. It's a fine piece, he said. Where'd you get it? Her throat constricted. It was a gift. The man nodded, scribbled something in a ledger, then disappeared into the back. Emily bounced Sophie gently, whispering lullabies while tears burned her eyes. She hated herself for being here, hated what she was about to do. When the shopkeeper returned, his face was tighter. This ring is valuable, he said slowly. Too valuable for me to buy outright. I'll need to call in a licensed buyer. Emily's stomach dropped. Please, I don't have time. I just need something for formula. Tonight. The man shook his head. I'm sorry, miss, but don't worry. The buyer's already on his way. Won't take long. Emily wanted to snatch the ring back and run. But where would she go? She had no one left, no other options. So she stayed, clinging to Sophie, praying this buyer would at least be quick. Minutes later, the bell chimed again. Cold air swept in, along with polished shoes, the faint musk of expensive cologne, and a presence so commanding that Emily froze. Where's the piece? A deep voice asked. Her heart stopped. She turned, slowly, and nearly collapsed. Alexander Knight, her ex-husband, the man who had once sworn forever, then shattered it. He stood in the doorway, broad-shouldered in a charcoal gray suit, every line of him sharp and polished. His piercing blue eyes scanned the shop before falling on the counter. On the ring, then on her. Time seemed to stop. Emily, his voice cracked, surprise breaking through the CEO mask. Her breath caught in her chest. She held Sophie tighter, as though to shield her. The shopkeeper, oblivious, smiled nervously. Mr. Knight, thank you for coming. This lady brought in the piece. I thought only you could verify it. Alexander didn't move. His gaze stayed locked on Emily, on the dark circles beneath her eyes, the desperation in her stance. Finally, he spoke. Why are you selling this ring? Emily's lips trembled. Because I need to. His eyes flicked to the baby, then back. His jaw clenched. You'd pawn the ring I gave you, for her. Emily lifted her chin, though her voice shook. Not for me, for my child. His gaze snapped back to Sophie. For the first time, his mask cracked. Emily, his voice faltered. She's mine. Emily cut in quickly. Her throat burned. That's all you need to know. He stepped closer, his expression unreadable. Yours, or ours. The words hung between them like a blade. Emily turned away, tears spilling. I don't want your questions. I just need the money. Alexander picked up the ring, his hand tightening around it. His eyes softened for a heartbeat before hardening again. You're not selling this ring. Not here, not anywhere. Her stomach dropped. No, you don't understand. He cut her off, pulling a sleek wallet from his coat and laying a thick stack of bills on the counter. This will cover your formula. And more. Emily stared at the money as though it were poison. Pride screamed at her to refuse. But Sophie whimpered again, and Emily's resolve shattered. Her whisper barely carried. Why are you doing this? For once, his eyes held no coldness, no CEO armor. Just the man she had once loved. Because, he said quietly, regret lacing every word, I should never have let you go. To be continued. Part 2 Secrets and Second Chances. Emily hadn't expected him to follow. But that night, a knock rattled her apartment door. Her breath caught. When she opened it, Alexander stood there, filling the dim hallway of her run-down building. Against the peeling wallpaper and flickering bulb, he looked like a man out of place, too polished, too sharp, too powerful. Her heart raced. Alex. His jaw tightened as his gaze swept over her modest apartment. So it's true. This is how you've been living. Emily bristled, shame and anger colliding. What do you want? His voice didn't waver. The truth. Is she my daughter? Her stomach twisted. She had carried the secret for 2 years, convinced she was protecting Sophie. But as her daughter stirred in her arms, Emily knew she couldn't lie anymore. Yes, she whispered. The silence was deafening. Alexander's carefully controlled composure cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Tears blurred her vision. Because you left me, Alex. You walked away, and the next day I found out I was pregnant. I wasn't going to beg you to come back. I swore I wouldn't. His voice roughened. Emily, I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because I thought I wasn't enough. I wanted to give you the world, but I lost myself in it. And when I finally turned back, you were gone. Her chest ached. She remembered his promises, his laughter, but she also remembered nights of hunger, Sophie's fevers, the crushing loneliness. You don't get to rewrite history, she whispered. You weren't there when she cried all night. You didn't choose between rent and food. You weren't there. He stepped closer, his voice breaking. But I'm here now, and I will never walk away again. Not from you, not from her. Emily shook her head, torn between hope and fear. Words are easy, she said softly. But Sophie doesn't need promises. She needs someone who shows up. Alexander's gaze softened as Sophie opened her sleepy blue eyes, his eyes. His hand trembled as he brushed a finger against hers. Then let me show up. Every day. For her. For you. Always. Emily's tears fell freely. She wanted to resist, to keep the walls she had built. But Sophie's tiny hand curled around Alexander's finger, sealing something Emily could no longer deny. For the first time in years, she let herself hope. Maybe this wasn't the end of their story. Maybe it was only the beginning.